All right, guys, so this is the garden, and I'm going to show you guys how we do this without weeds. So if you look, you'll see each one of the plants here is in a 5-gallon bucket. Okay, so this is Mr. AJ.
Hello.
All right, Mr. AJ, move down so they can see. All right, so you'll see what we did, AJ and I, is we put everything in 5-gallon buckets. Now, you may hear from people that the stuff will not grow in 5-gallon buckets. It is absolutely not true. So this is what I'm going to show you. Okay, so a tomato plant's pretty easy. Tomatoes grow like weeds in 5-gallon buckets. It's amazing how they grow. Some things that you're going to hear you can't grow are watermelons. Here we are successfully growing. This is one watermelon plant. Mr. AJ, you want to just pull the leaf back a little bit so they can see the other two watermelons. Right here, this leaf. Yeah, just pull it back just a little bit. This one, yep. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's 2 more watermelons there. There's a watermelon here. This is all off of one plant. All right, go back there, AJ. All right, so here you can see we got pepper plants, got peppers growing on them. We did get a late start on the pepper plants.
Pepper plant me.
So this is a late start on the peppers, but they are going. These are supposed to be a bush variety, and you'll see here we got a lot more leaves on these than those over there. The reason being is those were attacked, the ones that have the least amount of leaves were attacked by an insect, and I didn't catch it in time, so it had stripped quite a bit. They call them here in southern Maryland tobacco worms, but I caught it just in time and got rid of it. There was only one, so we saved these ones here. Got a lot of tiny little peppers popping right now. The tomato, I don't know if it's really hard to see them because they're still green, but every one of these tomato plants that I have, you know, tons of tomatoes, with the exclusion of this little one. I'll show you this little one in a minute. So everything in here is relatively weed free. I've had very few reasons to come out here and actually do some weeding, but we have a row here. I'm going to show you this row. This is all cucumber plants along this back, and you'll see there's 2 right there. These are very large cucumbers too. Like we tend to harvest pretty often the cucumbers because we love cucumber salad, but we get very large very quick in the buckets. Now I'll show you this. You can see here there's tomatoes all over these tomato plants, and these are grown in buckets. All I did was prepare them like a traditional bucket garden, which I'll go over in a minute. This here is something that not a lot of people do, but is pretty much free. So this is romaine lettuce, and you can see here this is a stalk of romaine. And what I did was I took the cutting, the stump that you're going to cut off the bottom of the romaine and throw away anyway, put it into a plastic container, filled it with about 1 inch of water in the bottom, and let that sit roughly a week, week and a half, until you start to see some good sized leaves coming out, and then you'll see little roots that come out of the bottom, and then I just put them in the buckets as well. Pretty easy. Now I will say this, this one here was the largest one, and that's because it was the very first one I tried. Now you'll see up top here this is getting ready to go to seed. So what happens is these little flowers will drop their seed trying to procreate. Now I'll come out here and I'll snip these off to get rid of them, and what will happen is we'll get even more leaves when you just crack it off like that. So this little guy here was planted at the same time, but this one kind of overshadowed him, so he wasn't getting a lot of sun, so he wasn't growing. Now that I've trimmed the larger one, he's starting to shoot up as well. So you'll see, so this was the first time I did it. This one here, this little one, and this one over here, the same day I transplanted them in the pots. So there's a little bit of a growth difference. You can see the size of the leaves. Now this was the tomato plant that I referenced that I would go over with you. So if you guys, any of you that are hardcore tomato growers, you're going to know about, it's called a sucker branch, okay? So the sucker branch on the tomato is the one that grows out on a 45-degree angle. I clipped that off, and I was told you could just plant that right into a pot and it would grow another tomato plant. So I wanted to try it, and darned if it didn't. This was started about a month after this one. This is actually the plant that I cut that off of. Now you guys are going to see my tomato plants are what most people would refer to as out of control. I don't refer to them as out of control. I don't prune tomato plants. I like my garden. I know I could be a lot more productive if I did, but I don't prune my tomato plants. I just let them do their thing and grow the way they're going to grow. But I keep them watered. Now with buckets, the only thing I will say is you do have to give them slightly more fertilizers than you would say if it was in the ground. I've only fertilized once since I put them in the buckets. I use a little bit of Miracle-Gro fertilizer, and I also throw in a little Epsom salt in the bottom of every bucket of everything that I put out here. And the reason being is that we live very close to a pond, and we get a lot of like slugs and snails. So the salt actually deters them. They will climb up the side of the bucket if given the chance. But I put the salt in there and I leave it dry on top of the dirt, and it just deters them. Once you've stopped them from getting into your buckets, they will kind of know that they're not really wanting to go there. I don't know how, but I had one problem in the beginning of the season, and that was it. After that, after the salt, they kind of just stopped coming. Now I will show you, we have a few things here. So this is a little pot of basil. I was trying it out for the first time this season. I wanted to see how it grew, so I did a little small tiny pot just to get myself used to it. We also have, these are wildflowers and some 4 o'clocks here. So that's the garden. Now I'm going to go up and show you guys in a separate video what to do with the buckets. It's not hard.